Hello, good morning. Actually, I don't know if it is morning where you are. It doesn't
It is morning. It is morning where I am, Richard. Yeah.
It's morning where you are, but I don't know the listeners. They might be somewhere else. So, and they listen. This is in hyperspace. People just sort of download it at the time. It might be in 1,000 years from now. People are listening to this episode. Who knows? Anyway, whoever you are, whichever alien being you are. Okay, I'm being silly now. Good morning. Welcome to Discover Energy Work. It's nice to have you here. Today I have Sue Moore, and Sue has got an incredible story of spontaneous healing. And actually also you have a story of shifting your life direction, don't you, Sue, as well? So yes. How do you introduce yourself so people can, like, as we do, we like to put people in certain areas.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Richard. It's great to connect with you and your listeners too. So my name is Sue Moore. I'm the founder of Inside Out International, and I'm a health and lifestyle coach. So that's the inverted label that people know me by. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what happened? So what was the story? I mean, I know a little bit of the story, although as I admitted to you just a second ago, I've forgotten half of it. I was like, I speak to so many people at the moment about their healings and about the amazing things that happen to them that I'm lost. So will you fill me in?
Yes, absolutely, Richard. So it all started back in 2014 when I was training for a marathon, the Melbourne Marathon. I'm based in Australia. And 2 weeks out from that, I had a massive migraine, and the migraine lasted for 5 hours. And after that, I was left numb, completely numb down the right-hand side of my body, and I was unable to feel my right foot. So I started panicking a bit, thinking that maybe it was a stroke and didn't know what it was. To cut a really long story short, after a month of tests, I finally, an MRI scans, full body MRI scans, blood tests, everything. I went to see a neurologist, and he said, Sue, you have 8 lesions on your brain. And because of that, we're diagnosing MS, multiple sclerosis.
Right. Yeah. And so for people that might not know, our nerves are insulated much like wire in the electrical system of the house, and the sclerosis, which means you could say it's like scarring, means that that insulation is kind of destroyed or scarred really badly. Nerves are the most sensitive and differentiated cells of the body, which sometimes they just can never ever heal. So that's what MS is, and I'm right in understanding it's pretty much there's no treatment for it. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right. That's right, Richard. So it's an autoimmune disease, and they did say that it's an incurable disease. MS is incurable. What they did say then was that there are many drugs on the market that might help my symptoms and might help prevent future attacks from happening. But they also said that it might not help. So I went away with that thinking, okay, well, my whole world has completely changed. I've gone from being as fit as I could ever be, just about to embark on a marathon. It was my first ever marathon. And then receive a diagnosis. To me, it just didn't make any sense. So there was a lot of trauma and regret of, inverted commas, my old life. And then, going down the route of, well, what to expect, because I hadn't heard of MS before. So my limited knowledge of it was you receive a diagnosis and then you get worse and then you end up in a wheelchair and you die. Well,
yeah, that's pretty much actually like my impression as well. So everything to do with nerves can get worse, and it happens in like phases where suddenly that part of the nervous system, so whether it's in the brain or in the periphery, so in the arms and legs or the gut or wherever, that suddenly just has a flare up. The nerves become scarred, stop working, or worse, they actually misfire. So essentially, they're just like sparking electrical wires. They're just shorting out wherever.
Yeah.
So you have what is called paresthesia, which is you have a feeling where there is nothing to feel, as it were. So you've got buzzing or terrible pain in the body. So I mean, it is a nightmare of a disease, I must say.
Yeah, absolutely. So then, Richard, what happened next was, it was, okay, so I had received the diagnosis in October, November-ish, 2014, missed obviously the marathon. And it was funny actually, because I remember going to my GP, I put so much training into the marathon, and any of your listeners who are runners or any fitness people out there would know how much commitment it takes to run a marathon. And my GP was actually a runner too. And I said, look, I don't know what it is, but like I've got 2 weeks now to in between the incident of the when I had the migraine, just let me know what I can do so that I can be on the starting line. And he looked at me, said, Sue, I understand you're a runner, you've put in all this training, but I can't help with that. And he actually did call up the local hospital and spoke to the neurological team. And they said, before my diagnosis, he said, she could, run, but it could have an absolute risk as well. So without a full scan and a full diagnosis. So I was quite stubborn and I went to see if I could, move my leg and to run. But it was just at that time when I was stubborn enough to go out and see if I could move again. It was like, I don't know if you can see, it was like having pins and needles, but like on steroids, I suppose, where I couldn't even feel the floor. It was almost as if I was with my right leg, it was moving, but it was in air. And I thought, this is pretty dangerous. I can't even feel the floor.
Yeah.
In my mind, I'm thinking I'm running, but I have no idea what my legs are doing. This is pretty dangerous. And just even walking up a hill, I was just exhausted, and I just thought, this is ridiculous, not even to go from a marathon, but even downgrade it and enter the 5K race. So yeah, I didn't do it.
Yeah.
So I was absolutely devastated for that. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I can imagine. I can also imagine, like, your family must have been like a bomb had hit the house. Like, must have been like incredibly difficult, because number one is this probably mysterious disease. Okay, so I've got a medical background, but other people, it's like this mysterious disease and it's incurable. And you see pictures of people with MS and you go, oh, this is really not good. And this is something which is going to continue with us and our family, like watching you go into decline over a number of years. So, I mean, it must have been so incredibly difficult for everyone.
Yeah, absolutely. My husband, we don't have any children, but my husband was there with me and when we received the diagnosis. And I remember at the time with the neurologist told us, and he had an amazing bedside manner. He was just the most incredible human. And he said the news, said the diagnosis, and then he was carried on talking. And for me, it was a delayed reaction. It was almost like a sliding door moment. Rod, my husband, was sitting there. And then the neurologist slowly pushed a box of tissues towards me. And I'm saying, why is he doing that? That's odd behavior. Like, I'm English, I don't cry. And then all of a sudden it was really delayed. And I just thought, wow, it's really hit me like a bombshell. And I was beside myself, I was crying. So I was forward pacing into, what will my life be like? I don't know what this is. Will I end up in a wheelchair? Will I die? What do I do now? my whole world as I knew it just kind of like caved in. And I looked at Rod, and he was just the most amazing. He's my emotional rock, really. With any good relationship, you have that real big balance. And he, even though he was shocked too, he kind of held the fort and was able to ask not the tough questions, but ask the questions that I wanted to know, but was unable to communicate, you know. So we asked about diet, we asked about what life would be like, what, you know, what the next steps are now. And so, yeah, that was interesting. So when the doctor actually did say that it was incurable, but there are medications that might help the current symptoms and might help prevent future flare-ups. I went away with this information, Richard, over the Christmas period, because he was off until like the start of the next year. And I investigated the pamphlets, the information and the drugs, but there was a massive list of side effects. And I just thought, well, I'm just not doing that to my body. If he was saying it might work, it might not. To me, it felt like playing Russian roulette.
Yes.
And I just thought, I've got to take life into my own hands. What can I do? What can I do moving forward? Yeah. So then I started researching. Yeah.
Yes. So I got a mozzie that keeps on like flying on me. I'm totally enwrapped, and I've got this mozzie, and I'm like, you are not biting me. Well, he probably is. I should probably just like, I should probably capitulate.
Yeah, Richard, they like English blood, don't they?
Well, we have, well, I think I have a particularly good claret, you know.
Same here.
Yeah, right. I get that, and I think what we should say is, at the moment, is we're not giving any medical advice. You know, it's, you know, somebody is going to go to a doctor and they're going to have a feeling, you know, that they might feel undermined by this. We're not saying that. What we're saying is, in a way, there is another option. So what was your other option? What did you took plan B, yeah, which is what wasn't doctor's plan A. You said, okay, I'm going to do something else.
Yeah, to me, I just had this overwhelming feeling in my body that it just didn't make sense. Like I said, it felt like playing Russian roulette when you're given like the option of these drugs might work, they might not, and then you take that probability into the balance with a whole list of side effects, and that you'd be prescribed these for the rest of your life. Every cell in my body was screaming no. It made zero sense to me. So
yeah,
from that point of view, I had to find another way. Now, I want to pre-frame this, that what I'm going to share with you, and Richard, we've had a conversation before this call, you know, might not be for everyone. And I know that MS, multiple sclerosis, they do call it the snowflake disease, the invisible disease, and everyone does have anyone who has been diagnosed with it has various different symptoms and various results. However, what I'm going to share next, I do feel that people can learn to tap in to their own innate intelligence. So, and that was the intuition, the calling for me, that it didn't make sense. So, Richard, what I did next was I went on to Google, and I just wanted to find out a bit more about what life is like living with MS. Have people been able to run again with MS? So my biggest identity was a runner, so I just thought, don't take running away from me. That was one of the thoughts that was going through my mind. I saw a YouTube clip, and I forget her name now. She was an American. She was an amazing lady, and she was living with MS, and she was still able to do track work. So that was my reference. I thought, wow, okay, there's somebody else who has been diagnosed with MS who can still run. Great. If she can do it, I can do it too. So that was my thinking. Then I also went down the rabbit hole, and I found out more evidence of people who had spontaneous remissions from incurable diseases.
Right.
And there was a study done by the Institute of Notic Sciences, and they've catalogued many people from incurable diseases, autoimmune cancer, you name it. And again, it was another reference point of, wow, okay, there are other people who have done it. If they can do it, I can too. So it was almost in that research, I was just stacking evidence of what else was possible. Um, then I found other, diets online that I could look at. Um, so I was just putting the pieces together of what I call now a very holistic approach, thinking of me as a human being, rather than the diagnosis and the almost a life sentence or the for life, that this is how it's going to be. Just think, okay, let's dig a bit deeper into the holistic being. How can we help the whole being move forward? And that, and again, as we were talking about before, the fundamental belief that the innate intelligence that made the body can also heal the body. So
Right.
to tap into that.
What I like about your story, I mean, I like the fact that you went to the, you did a kind of scientific, study. So the Institute of Noetic Sciences, that's where Dean Radin and various other people are running incredible research. They all are recognized PhDs. They are all doing like totally, we can say, up to the scientific standard research. And it's not that that's the only way to go, because some people have just, like, as you say, they've tapped into their noetic, their innate intelligence. I just want to refer you and people to this book by Jeffrey Rediger called Cured, where he's a Princeton and Harvard trained doctor. He's now a medical director of a hospital, and he said spontaneous remission is not a statistical anomaly. It happens quite a lot, and we should study it. And that's what this book is about. It's like his study of it. And what you're already saying is confirming that. It's like, okay, well, I'm going to look into my diet, and there is something else. There is something else that I need to look at, and we'll call it innate intelligence. Everyone's got a different word for it, maybe. But how did you tap into your? Because I'm thinking, like, not in a bad way, but as far as that's concerned, you must be feeling a bit of a pleb. Like, what is innate intelligence? What is plebeian? Like a commoner. What is this thing? I don't know what this is.
Yeah. How I would explain it is there's an energy or a power within you that has created you. So just think about it. We go about our doingness, our actions, but we don't consciously think about, okay, I better breathe now, or okay, well, I better beat my heart. And by the way, while I'm thinking and breathing and beating my heart, I better produce some white blood cells and some red blood cells. It's all taking care of you. So and so that's one aspect of it. And the other thing, which everyone has, and everyone's had experience of it, no matter what they've encountered in their life, is a strong urge and a deep intuition. So it's that knowingness, that intuition, that guiding light, that north star that never fails you. That if you start to tune into that, that is they are your answers internally. Hence my health coaching business name, Inside Out International, because all the answers are within you, all the resources are within you. It's just that over time, children progressing into adults, we're taught from our environment to look externally for the answers, as opposed to tapping in here in our heart and our intuition to guide us. So that was a big part of it. And so it was a case of that knowingness, but then it was a case of, okay, well, I know that, and I feel that there's got to be another way, but now what? So that now what for me, when I had the social proof of seeing a lady who had been diagnosed with MS, was able to run, finding other people who had spontaneous remissions from incurable diseases, I had to then piece things together for it to work for Sue. So what I did then, from in a nutshell, I looked at diet. Even though my diet was pretty clean already, being a runner, I
Mm.
looked at diet, meditation, kinesiology for emotional work, reduce stress. I left a very stressful job, and the fifth one was I moved from a colder climate, so Victoria, in Australia, and moved up to Queensland, where my husband and I live now. So they were the five things that I really focused on. For the diet aspects, a number of people had told me about this amazing lady called Dr. Terry Walls. She also was diagnosed with MS. She was a clinician, and she was able to manage it, go from a tilt wheelchair to be able to, um, ride a bike in a short period of time. So she had the Walls protocol, that's what it's called. And
Mm.
it was quite paleo based. And I bought the book and I started following that. Halfway through that, I suddenly discovered, like, okay, how's my body feeling now with this? And for me personally, the meat was a bit too heavy. And I started developing, and like touched on it before, intuition, but this intuitive way of, okay, rather than emotional eating or just eat your breakfast because it's 7 o'clock. Well, look at your watch, it's 1 o'clock. I must have lunch now.
Yeah.
Okay, does my body actually want food right now? What does it actually need, for a nutrition, a fuel point of view, as opposed to just shoving food down because, society says it's 7 o'clock and we must have breakfast.
Mm.
Um, so I kind of incorporated that. Meditation was new for me, and I started doing
Not
meditations
in a
from.
way. I mean, not, I would sort of almost say like not really, because running itself is so meditative. It so brings you into another space, doesn't it? I think that's
Mhm.
what people love about running, to be honest.
Yeah, true, true. But yeah, absolutely. So I was taking meditation. I take on your point, Richard. Yeah, that's fantastic from an active point of view, but actually sitting still in a quiet space for, half an hour, I just sort of like, no, I had one of those extremely, um, active minds, always thinking. So to actually sit quiet in a still space, that was a challenge for me. What
Mm.
I loved about Dr. Joe Dispenza is his amazing story, how he was a chiropractor. He was on a triathlon, and he was hit by a truck on the bike leg, and was left in hospital, and had a very severe, I don't know the full details, but he had like very severe um, spinal issues. And again, to cut a really long story short, he, while he was laying flat on his back, he actually imagined his spine rebuilding itself. And he did that over and over again until he could formulate his whole complete perfect spine. And he did. And now he's walking, and now he's doing amazing work around the world and seminars and
Mm.
teaching people, about the body. So I started doing his meditations, and I went to one of his retreats. And in one of the retreats, I just had this incredible feeling after one of the meditations that I was whole, that I was healed.
Mm.
Um, and I couldn't explain that to anyone other than it's done, it's complete, I'm a completely new people.
Mm.
So the evidence for me was to go back for an MRI scan and to see how things had changed
Right.
and what happened. Yeah, so what actually happened at the when I went to see the neurologist again, had the MRI, went in, had the appointment. He pulled up on the screen before with 8 lesions and after with none. And so that was the evidence I needed. But the beautiful thing I want to share with your listeners and you, Richard, is that image was in all the meditations I had done every morning for a 9-month period. I visualized being in that neurologist office, having a conversation with him, seeing my MRI scans before and after, and that scene exactly happened
Yeah.
in the exact way. So it was
Wonderful. I mean,
again.
I'm thinking like it's almost like a reverse trauma. You know, yeah, it's very hard for people. I think when they hear of different sicknesses to imagine how impossible that is, because, and I'm using the word impossible because according to our current understanding of the body, it's impossible. The nerve tissue just doesn't heal that fast, and it doesn't. Scars in the nerve tissue, they just don't go. In fact, scar tissue doesn't go. And one of my little stories is myself was a scar, like a big lump on my eye being disappearing in 3 days. When my teacher did energy work, but you haven't actually mentioned energy, so which is interesting, which is fine. I mean, I think everything is energy, but you're using your visualization, you're using the diet, you're using meditation, and haven't you developed your own program, or am I wrong?
Yes, yeah, and I think quite rightly so, Richard, and I think from the visualizations, what actually changed internally was the energetic being. I actually became a new person. So by actually becoming that new person of being fit and healthy, I actually became that. So that is the energetic being becoming like a new person. So what I've done is I've studied with many people, Dr. Joe Dispenza, the Heart Math Institute, and a number of other people. And I formulated, because people said, okay, well, Sue, that's amazing what you did, but like, how did you do it? And so,
yeah, I'm actually, again, I want to almost interrupt you, is I'm thinking like, how does, you know, I said like, how does somebody who's gone to their environment and they said like, got this, you know, terrible thing, and, you know, essentially I'm going to die. It's not a matter of, we're all going to die, but like, this is now, I'm going to die a slow and painful death. I don't know how this is going to happen. And then it's gone and it's disappeared. Were they like, oh, don't talk about this, this is like, or were they a little bit scared, or were they just amazingly happy?
yeah, they were. My neurologist is an amazing person, as I said, and his exact words were, Sue, out of the 8 lesions you had, most of them have completely disappeared, and there was only a couple back then, but they had significantly diminished. And so that was in a 9-month period with no medical intervention. So now, like, I have no lesions, no nothing, and no symptoms at all. At the time, he was saying, you know, I think we were, I was in this kind of knowingness and disbelief all at the same time. And what I mean by that is knowingness, because I'd experienced that moment so many times every single day, that when that moment reached up with me in inverted commas linear time, it was almost like, yeah, I know, I've already been to this event. So for the listeners, using it another way, maybe think when you're a child and you're thinking about Christmas Day or your birthday, and you play over in your mind how it's going to play out in a joyous way. That is the scene that I'm coming to. So that is, as you said, Richard, the energetic work, because you're actually being a hologram. That's how to describe it, a hologram of your future self, but in the now. Because the beauty about your mind is it doesn't know the difference between imagination or reality. To your mind, it's the same. So if you have a strong enough vision, a strong enough intent, a strong enough emotional backing. So I had the emotions of, how would I feel when I do get the all clear? Well, I'm going to feel happy, joyous, celebrating. So I brought all those emotions into the visualization. So yeah, I hope that helps your listeners.
I mean, it is a fascinating area, and what I'm hearing as well is like, for me, it's like you're an unlikely hero. You know, it feels like you're just living your life, you're doing your job, and then suddenly you have to find that thing inside you, and you did a lot of courses, and then you said, well, it's like, if somebody's got a problem, let me like me say, I don't know if this is correct, so just correct me. If somebody's got a problem like this, so they need to do all these courses, or is there something I can offer which I think is the essence of what I learned from this experience?
Yeah, thank you. That's a great sum up. And I think the essence of what I learned, cramming everything that I've done since, and looking at me being a social experiment in those 9 months, going from 8 lesions to none, not being able to feel my leg, to be able to feel my leg. Not only that, but to retrain myself and to run a marathon again in that 9-month period. What I did was, I can break it really down or chunk it up into three areas, which is what I help my clients do as well. The first step is heal the past trauma. And what I mean by that is that version of yourself who has created the situation right now. So for me, that was looking into all my past emotions, how I thought, how my programming wasn't a very powerful place. It was quite, growing up, being in England, it was very much don't be seen, don't be heard, do what you're told. So there was quite a lot of oppression. So, and it wasn't a case of to feel emotions. It was like put a lid on it. Oh, you're not supposed to do that. And so throughout even though I had a beautiful childhood, don't get me wrong, underlying all of that, it was a perfect storm for me putting a lid on all my emotions, not fully expressing them, not fully being my authentic self. My mum, actually, Richard, always called me, you are the enigma. Like, you always have the ability to just like blend in to your environment, so, or with people. So with that blending in, and again, I don't know if your listeners can identify with this, I lost myself.
Yeah.
So I lost
it's interesting. I was literally talking like 2 days ago with Stanley Krippner, and he said that the most psychic people are people with thin boundaries, so thin borders. They are the most psychic, and that's something, again, which is, and there's a test that you can do, which science has come up with a way of saying, oh, this person is more likely to be susceptible to psychic phenomena. So I'm almost hearing what Professor Stanley Krippner just said to me two days ago. And you're going, yeah, so it was like this. And I'm like, oh, okay. So, yeah, I mean, it sounds like you were predestined, or this was happening more than you realized, probably before it ever physically manifested as a disease.
Absolutely.
And it really brought out that innate, I want to say innate talent or innate gift that you have.
Yeah, thank you. The second step would be, which I touched on a bit earlier. So the first step, heal your past trauma. Second one would be create. So what is the intention? What do you want to create? So for me, I really identified with, okay, so let me backtrack. One thing that I've heard and I've read is that even if you receive a diagnosis, it's not the prognosis. So it's not like a life sentence. It's not forever. And I think with that, you hear a language I've heard and I felt internally and know so with every cell of my being is so powerful, especially if you use a sentence with I am and then fill in the dots. And people refer to that as your identity. So I am a teacher, a doctor, or whatever. People always use that as well as inverted commas their label, and you hear I am a, or I've got cancer, diabetes, MS. I never used that languaging. My husband never used that languaging. So it was almost as if, okay, we've received this diagnosis. This is the current format. However, we're molding this into what we want to create. So what do I do then? So for the creation, you know, creating your future, my future was, I'm unlimited and I'm in vibrant health. What does that look like for me? Well, for me, it would mean that I'm symptom free. I'm able to run again. Big thing would be for me to run a marathon again. So that was the other second component of my visualization, to actually see myself in action running through the finish line with arms in the air, you know, celebrating. And I'll probably cry, Richard, because that's such a strong vision. And again, it came true, and just an amazing thing how powerful we actually are as creator beings. And I think we kind of forget that going through life. And I think I hopefully you and I are here to inspire others that, you know, what do you want to create? Like, you know, if you could do anything, if you had a blank canvas right now, what picture, what image would you create for yourself?
Right.
Yeah.
Right. I'm certainly fascinated by the whole topic of creation. I sometimes, well, you can say that again with psychokinesis and manifestation, we can't be sure that it's not clairvoyance, that was going to happen anyway. However, I guess it's certainly more pleasurable to start imagining wonderful things in your life if you can, you know, if you can deal with it. And of course, I think to a certain extent there can be a bit of delusion. Do you know what I mean as well? So people,
Yeah.
so I guess that's where somebody comes to you and gets the benefit of your connection to your inner intelligence. So you're able to ask in a way for that. I mean, I know I am. I'm able to ask, well, is that really, does that fit? You know, I work in terms of weak and strong. It's that person, they're saying it, but they're weak to it. They're actually every time they're saying something which it's not going to be true, it's just weakening them, and they feel like they're going, oh, I'm going to $1 million. You think, oh, wait a minute. You might think that's what I'm talking about with manifestation, or anyway, no. Right now, that is not something you want to be saying to yourself. I do feel like the internet's full of, or Facebook is full of people going, I'm manifesting, I'm going to see this, and I think in all fairness, there's something powerful in you know, saying I'm going to do this, and then there's also an oversimplification of something which is, you know, we don't really know what it is, but that's the wonderful thing. We don't have to know exactly what it is, and we can still tap into it. But you were also telling me, and this is something I was fascinated with, was some people, you know, you wanted to share this amazing experience that you've been through, which I understand from my experience, because when I realized, you know, I could feel energy and so on, I was like, oh wow, I could help the world. Now, it wasn't easy for some people to hear what you were saying. Is that right?
Yeah, absolutely, Richard. And I think I've been very mindful of. At first, I was very mindful of who I shared my journey with. Number one. Number two is when I made the decision what route I would go down, I was very conscious of what support I needed. And I think that is 100% critical of your environment, who you have around, because there were a number of people in my life at that time who were, inverted commas, quite not negative. I think they were just portraying their concern for me and the future. even to the extent that that some people said, well, are you going to sell your home now? You know, you live in a 2-story house, you better, like, you know, have a single level. And to me, I thought, pardon, why would I sell my home? And, like, maybe I was quite innocent, and they sort of said, oh, you know, you think about the future and the wheelchair. And I thought, wow, that's not even in my future. So I just thought, okay, then it was almost, I put myself in this protective bubble, as in, I'm in this social experiment for 9 months to do as best I can to create this future that I could see, and to move forward every day with my best ability moving forward to that. And then let's see what happens. So after I, you know, I received the amazing outcome that I had, and I started to share with people, some people have been supportive and other people haven't. And that's okay too, because I feel that everyone's on their own journey, on their own healing journey. And some people are quite strong in their opinions as to the way to move forward, and that's okay too. And I think, get back to, everyone's on their own journey.
Yes.
And I'm just here to share hope of possibility of what you can do. Yeah.
I do think, I mean, I can totally relate to what you're saying. And I think there is sort of almost this moment, well, I know I've had people say, I think you're crazy, you know, like, I think you need to go and see a psychiatrist, you know, which is a bit of a blow, yeah. Especially with, they're often people that are close enough to you that think they can say this, and you think, well, wow, they really don't get me, they really don't believe me, and so on. But and for me, it was easier because I had something tangible I could really feel, and I could go up to somebody and say, you've got a problem here and here and here. And then there's other people where literally I felt like, and maybe this is my thin boundaries, it's like, I don't want to show them, or I don't even want to share what I'm experiencing, because it frightens them. It's just scary for them. And we don't know, like I say, you know, if you've had a mother who's died of multiple sclerosis, and then you hear your story, that may be a painful story, especially if you push them. The mother had said, I don't know, I want to try diet, and say, oh, don't be fatty, you know, don't be a crank, yeah. And so that's like a retrospective trauma for all those moments. So I think we often think that trauma is something that happens in a moment. Well, it does. But the funny thing about time, if you've been going along, you know, one line of thought, and then suddenly you have a change of direction, which essentially trauma means you suddenly change direction. Whether something hits you or whether you suddenly have a realization, you look back in your life and go, oh, I really messed up there, and that's affected so many people that I didn't know that, and I was always making fun of people that were, you know, believing in innate intelligence or woo woo. Yeah. So has anything woo woo happened during this process, would you say?
Wow.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, there have been many insights actually as to maybe past lives. The reason why this has probably happened now, and being really clear on what's happening in the world today and the future. And I think just really, how to put it, I've kind of sense in the, if I'm off kilter, I always call it coming home and being the eye of the storm. So there's a lot of craziness outside in the world events now, particular countries, and then communities, and then individuals. So I always call it coming back home, coming to the core and the center. And if I'm off kilter, I can really like feel other people's energies, and I can kind of, make it out as if it's mine. But getting back to your question of has any other synchronicities happened? There's I think we have to have a part two. Let's have a part two conversation.
Really? Okay. Well, that sounds very promising, actually. There's a whole load of things that you'd like to share in that area.
Yeah.
Ooh. Well,
watch this space, I think.
Yeah. I want to ask you another question, which is, have you, and I realized this, when did this actually happen? Was it like 2 years ago, 10 years ago?
No, October 2014. Yeah.
Right. Okay. So since then, you've at some point you started helping other people. Have you had success? I mean, have people got over sicknesses where they weren't expected to get over?
Yeah, absolutely. There's one that comes to mind. Jo, a lovely lady here in Australia. She had had probably about 10 years worth of health challenges. I won't go into too much detail because
we should probably beware of anonymity.
Yeah, for sure. What happened though, one of the big things is when she was in a dark space health-wise, with recurring health challenges. When she started working with me, and I took her through a few processes, when it came to the creation, she had realized that she was actually creating from a very limited space, from a very stuck space, as opposed to thinking, if anything was possible, Jo, what would you want? So when she created from that space, and her whole energy, her whole demeanor started to shift in a very short space of time, and she's able to go on a very, very good health journey, that is, just provided without divulging too much information, given her more energy. Her migraines have disappeared. Also from that, within her future vision of herself was income, something that she had been struggling with. Because of her health, she wasn't able to work. And all she had in mind, and dropped any attachment to how or when or if this would happen, she just wanted to double her income. And within a four-week period, she did. She had a series of opportunities that came her way, that just opened her up into also another healing space. And yeah, she was able to do that in such a short space of time. So I think that's the thing. It's the identity of who you want to be, and to drop any attachment onto how, and allowing your innate intelligence, the universe, God, source, spirit, whatever, to work with you. You've still got to take action clearly on a day-to-day basis, to bring that into your moment now. Yeah.
Right. I love that. I mean, I like for me, I like the concept everything is energy. And so we can, if we're working on energy, we can work on our finances, we can work on a relationship, we can work on our health, we can work on, our personality, we can work on anything, everything, which of course, to a certain extent, that can be a bit scary and overwhelming for people, but it's just, I think you have to just learn to, take it baby steps, step by step.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, I'm so impressed with you. I mean, so it's just amazing. From my perspective, it's a very short amount of time. You've done amazing things, and that's really brilliant.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much for coming and sharing your story with the probably, I say 25 people that, no, it's not. We're millions. We're millions over a period of time. We're going to be millions.
Yeah. Beautiful. Richard, before you go, I don't want to keep people in suspenders. The third step is to embodiment. So how would you bring that creation into your everyday now? So use the analogy of myself when I was training to run a marathon, and my visualization was a marathon runner, actually completing the runner. Bring it back to your current moment now. Well, Sue, how's that going to work? I couldn't even feel my foot, and I couldn't even like move my leg. So what I had to, again, it's the mind. I was playing tricks with my mind as my own social experiment. So I imagined I was already an athlete, a marathon runner, and I just had, inverted commas, a little blip of an injury. And I just had to think, okay, well, how would they do it? What would they eat? What would they think? Who would they be surrounded by? What would be their sleep patterns? How would they train? And then from the muscle memory, I just imagined my right leg was like a piston of a train. And I just imagined my leg. At first it was quite clunky, but I just imagined my leg going really smoothly. And again, the power, I just imagine the mind sending those messages, that energy down to my leg to move like a smooth piston. So that's the embodiment. So I didn't want to leave anyone thinking, well, what was the third step?
Oh, I mean, there's a lot to be said to that. You know, there's the carpenter effect that we can relate to how our mind. I think most sports people now agree, like 50% of their training is done in their mind. So it doesn't matter how much physical training you do if your mind's not there. And embodiment, I mean, I can sing you a song about embodiment, and it's wonderful. Just connecting with the body is so incredibly powerful, and it's and it goes very, very deep. You know, but again, what I like about your structure is you've got three things. They all need to work together. You can't just have one without the other. So, yeah,
Beautiful.
Amaze balls, as they say.
Haven't heard that saying for ages. Amaze balls. It's very English.
Yeah,
Love it.
Lovely. Well, we're going to have you back for part 2. I promise that. And but thank you so much for sharing.
Thank you. Thanks, Richard. Bye for now.